Hey Jordan, how you doing? And Josh. Good evening, Josh. How are you? Sorry, a bit of a late start tonight. Good evening, Andrew. Very timely that you should join, Andrew. I have a little package I have to open up shortly. So Friday afternoon, I smoked this for the first time. I converted this. Ooh, I haven't cleaned it out. Naughty boy. I converted this on Thursday night. I haven't actually made a pipe for a few days. Getting withdrawal symptoms. But I am quite excited. I took delivery from a couple of Briar deliveries today, one today and one the other day, and amongst them is one of them a couple of really large blocks, so I might get a couple of magnums out of them. We shall see. So apparently this is around the 1950s and 60s. I mean, the conversion that I did is not perfect, not by a long stretch, but at least I managed to keep the original stem on this occasion. I did do it on the lathe as well, but I can see that the tenon is not quite straight. But it smokes, and it actually, surprisingly, it gave me a really, really rich smoke of oily golden sliced. In fact, I don't recall having such a rich smoke of oily golden sliced before. Very, very rich, very full, spicy. It was a fresh tin. I've just jarred up a fresh tin. I did that on Friday, and yeah, it was really quite spicy. Hey Charlotte, welcome to the party. So, a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. Firstly, you may recall. Hey Daniel, how you doing? I haven't started smoking yet, and I'm going to wait until I open one of my packages because I might smoke something which I think is in one of those packages. So we'll bear with for just a moment. So this is another package I got on Friday. Well, not this. This lighter I've had for a while. My son picked this up for me, second hand. It was £70. It's a Dunhill roller gas, and it wasn't firing and it wasn't holding any gas. I changed the flint, so it's firing nicely now, but it doesn't hold any gas. So that comes out, and I found a supplier on eBay where you unscrew this whole section and the whole filler unit comes out as a whole unit, and then you replace it with this replacement unit here. So I was thinking I might just do that, see if I can manage to do that live. I'm not sure I've got the right screwdriver here. It needs quite a wide pin. If I wanted to do this, I'd probably have to go to the garage and pick up my wider flat screwdriver. I don't think I've got a wide one in here with me. So we'll shelve that for now. Maybe I'll do a video as I do that repair. And hopefully it will work. And that would be a very cool result. It's quite nice and small. It'll fit nicely in the pocket. Be a shame to use this as a carry, as an old EDC lighter, but I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stick with the Zippo as my EDC lighter. So, cheers, coffee. Decaf, of course, this time of night, past midnight. Okay, so next up on the agenda is a package I received from none other than the Bluefin Piper, aka Andrew Sirigliano. So what we have in the box, I've opened it up just to save time. And the first thing, which is very, very cool, I'm not quite sure what I would use it for, but a lovely little grinding, cutting toolkit, which Andrew has sent me. So you got some discs here, cutting discs, presumably for, it looks like it's for, well, you've got grinding discs here, and you've got some other types of cutting discs. Andrew, you'll have to fill me in on this. Very, very cool little piece of kit, this. Lots of cutting discs there, and you've got the arbors there. Oh, for stem slots, right. Well, that would be a pretty flipping great big stem for that. For the stem slots, I actually use I do have a bit for that. I don't think these really are suitable for stem slots, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but they are very neat to have, and possibly to use for maybe certain shaping on the Briar. Maybe, I really don't think these are suitable for slot cutting. Just bear with me a second, I've just got to answer a text from my son. Sorry. Just bear with me for a second, guys. Just bear with me, I've got to answer my son. Sorry about that, everybody, but I had to answer my son. I've done that now. Let me just catch up on the messages. This Dremel kit, Andrew, can use the disc for stem slots. Well, maybe the very smallest one, but I think you'd struggle to gauge because it's such a wide disc. The Dremel bit, I'll show it to you. You have to know which Dremel bit to get because it doesn't usually come with a kit with the Dremels, but you can get one which is perfect. And I have got that one. And at some point I'll check what the model number is. But this is still very useful, Andrew. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to belittle the gift. It's a fantastic gift, and I can see myself using this for doing certain grooves or almost like for routing, that kind of thing, on a piece of Briar possibly. I have to play around with it and see what effects I can get from it. So I really am very, very grateful for that. Thank you, Andrew. Let's have a look. Is that your only Dunhill or St. Dupont lighter? So that is I've got other Dunhill. I've got like a tabletop lighter which needs servicing, which I've showed before. The Dupont one is the Chinese one that I've got, which needs filling, and I've lost the filter, the little filler adapter. I've got to find that. It's somewhere in my drawer. I thought you might make use of it somehow. I'm sure I will make use of it, Andrew. Thank you very, very much. I figured it made customs declaration truthful. What did you write? I've taken the outer wrapper off. I think you wrote wood hobby supplies or something. Hey Tree, how you doing? And good evening, Paul. One Noggin, how you doing? Jack McLaughlin. What motor do you use for sanding? At the moment, I'm still using my drill with an arbor on the end of it. But I'm hoping to get. I got an amazing gift from a follower in America. Sent me a motor and a chuck, but I couldn't get it to work because of the voltage difference. I got a step down transformer. Still couldn't get it to work, and I've handed it over to an electrician, so I'm hopeful that I'll get it during the course of this week, and that will hopefully make my life a lot easier and the workshop a lot quieter. Am I hand cutting more stems? Not really, no. Every so often. So yesterday we got pretty much 99% of all the pipes out that needed to go out. There's 2 or 3 still to go. I can't remember if I've showed you the 2-stone that I did on this pipe. Have I showed you that I put a second stone in? There's 2 rubies in there. This pipe will be a great smoker, really will. I love the way this scalloping catches the light. It really works well. Hey James. Yeah, I thought so too, Andrew. The stain does work well. Okay, so now let me just get the other contents of the box that I got from Andrew. So he's also sent me this tin of Vaughan Oriental blend. I don't think I've ever had any of Vaughan's tobacco. This is Oriental blend number 2. And next one is the Savinelli Janus, which is, I believe, Oriental. An ambrosial mixture of bright Virginias, Orientals, and Perique. Fascinatingly nuanced and exotic. So, Andrew's quite right. I've been one on a Oriental kick and on an aromatic kick. You say this one, given my aromatic kick, what's in this? Can you give me a very quick description? Why is this aromatic? Are these aromatic? Hey, Kay, how you doing? Yeah, Orientals, but there's a. Andrew says that he sent it to me because. So I imagine this one is aromatic, but this one says exotic, so that often means that it's got some kind of fruit-based flavouring. Hey, Suffolk, how you doing? Vaughan is a true European-style arrow with coriander and honey. Ooh. Janus is a true VA Oriental. Okay, so I imagine I'll probably like this, and this one, it's hit and miss with me with aromatics. So maybe I'll give this one a go. Which one would you like to see me open first and try? Are these all mixtures as opposed to flakes? Yeah. So these are probably ribbons, right? Oriental blend. Janus is a broken flake. That really sounds like up my street. Vaughan aromatics are all very good quality. Cool. Where do you see your pipe business in a year? Open the Janus. Where do I see the pipe business in a year? Hopefully, more of the same. Hopefully, where it is now, I'm very happy with how it's going at the moment. As long as the pipes sell, I'm happy. I'm doing my best to keep the prices roughly the same. So I hope that I'll be able to still do that, because that will certainly help ensure that the pipes sell. I hope that the current situation that the world is going through is not going to decline further into a mass global depression, but I fear it will, but we'll see. Well, you know what, I'm going to open both tins and have a smell and see what it's like. Blue cheese. That reminds me a little bit of the Latakia, the Jermaine's. Oh, not special Latakia. The other one. The my brain's not working. And neither is this. bit stubborn, this tin. This tin doesn't want to open. Yeah, I think that all that will do is make sure that they get the legislation right so that they can enforce those labels. Nording or Chacom? No, I haven't. Oh, I can't open this. Look at my hands getting all black. I need a bit of a thicker implement, something like my brain. Sorry about this, but I can't get this thing open. Oh. Jeez, man. This thing is sealed good. I need a crowbar, is what I need. Try a coin. I've never used a coin with these. How are you supposed to do it? Put a coin in, and then what? Or is that too big? Twist? See if I can find something in my drawer. All right, I think we have something. There we go. Do you guys remember Paul Turnock? Paul Turnock used to take old files, old tools, and he would grind them down and then grind down the edge, and then he would repurpose some wood that he'd found and it'd make a knife. And he sent me this one time. I sent him a package and he was very delighted with what I sent him, and he sent me one of these back. He's actually made me 2 or 3 pipe stands as well. We exchanged a lot of stuff back in the day, but he doesn't really come on YouTube anymore. But this is a serious bit of kit. It's got a nice curve in the handle, very meaty handle, and it sits in my drawer. It's quite sharp. And this is a bit of guttering, which is just melted around the form of the knife. So, let's have a look at this tobacco. Savinelli. It's got a very fermented aroma, but it's not a strong aroma. But yeah, I get what you say about the blue cheese. It has got a bit of a fermented, cheesy aroma to it. Yeah, absolutely, Josh. Do you know who this is actually made by? Distributed in the USA by Lodizi. So that's smoking pipes. Conan and Dale. Interesting partnership with Savinelli. Although I think Savinelli, I've had a pretty good relationship. And they are I think they are the American distributor, aren't they? Lodizi for Savinelli. For their pipes. Hey Matt. I've never actually tried Castello. I've never generally gravitated towards tobacco blends marketed by pipe making companies. I think we touched on this last time, on last Saturday night. To me, it always is counterintuitive when I hear about companies that specialize in certain things branching out, using their name to market other things. To me, a pipe company should stick to making pipes, and tobacco companies should stick to making tobacco. It's a capitalist world. They can do what they like. It's not for me to say, but just in my mind, to me, it makes sense that people should stick to what they know, and rather than brand something which they have no real involvement in the process of it being made. Just seems a bit. Who knows? If they can make some money off it, I suppose that's the whole purpose of it all. There's definitely a bit of a fermented, smelly socks aroma in this room at the moment. Which pipe? As I was saying the other day, I'm struggling a little bit to remember which pipes I've smoked aromatics in and which ones I haven't. I don't think I've smoked aromatics in this one, although I'm not actually too sure. I do know one actually that I haven't. No, I'm not gonna try a brand new pipe, which I haven't broken in at all, on a new blend, because I just won't get the flavours. I'm going to use my Tom Phillips freehand Bulldog-ish. Well, it's not really a Bulldog, it's I suppose a freehand Dublin really. re-drilled this pipe because the draft was a little bit too narrow for me, and it completely changed the way this pipe smokes for the better, in a big way. It really does pong in here. Right, where's my filters? Royal Jersey, that's the one I was trying to think of. Jermaine's Royal Jersey Latakia flake, Latakia whatever it was, mixture. Also has a very, very fermented, cheesy kind of aroma and flavour actually. Dunhill and Peterson, yeah, I think that's those are an exception to the rule, if you ask me, Tree. But a very good question actually, a very good exception to the rule. You hit me there, you got me there. But they've certainly established themselves. See, Dunhill established themselves as tobacco producers, and they've got a reputation as tobacco purveyors on the strength of the quality of their tobaccos. They didn't use other people to make their tobaccos until they got out of the business themselves, but they certainly started making the tobaccos themselves. Peterson, I'm not sure whether they made them themselves or not. I think we'll first light it with a match. I don't think I've tried Black Irish Twist, no. Prince Albert, I haven't tried that either. Hey Chad, how you doing? No worries, catch you next time. What tobacco shocked me? Well, as I've said many times on my channel, my first interaction with Latakia blends shocked me, but not in a good way. I actually was quite repulsed by it. It was the Frogmorton range. I ordered a tester, the whole set of the Frogmortons from smokingpipes.com. My first order from America, going back nearly 5 years. And I opened up one of the tins. I don't remember which one was first, and I was repulsed by that horrible. It's the first time I came across Latakia, and it was a shock. I opened all of the tins, and they all had that same horrible smoky aroma. Good night, Suffolk. Hey, Boris. So for me, that certainly was a shock. But that all changed when I started to acquire a taste for it. And I fell in love with Latakia and smoked Latakia almost exclusively for probably a year and a half. This Janus, having just had a few draws, has reminiscences of the Sun Bear, but not as good. Or as Andrew says, not yet anyway. Hey, Tired. Oi, oi. It is interesting though. It's got a real rich bite to it. I don't mean as in tongue bite, but just a bite to it as you draw. Hi, Jeffrey. We're trying some of this Janus by Savinelli that Andrew Sirigliano sent to me. Sirigliano. Trying it for the first time. And I think this is a tobacco that Andrew would probably like a lot, because it's got a good peppery bite to it, and Andrew loves a peppery bite. Hey, Jeffrey. I'm alright. I'm alright. I'm very well, thank you. How is it? Not my cup of tea yet. There's elements of it that I like. But as you say, if you age it and it settles down, then maybe yes, maybe it could be something that I'd like a lot. But somehow the Sun Bear manages to do it from the off. And the balance in this one for me is just right. It's not really very sweet at all, no. I mean, there is sweetness there, but it doesn't come across as a sweet blend. I think the sweetness is overpowered by the strength. It's got a lot of poke, this blend, so far. Does that all make sense to you, Andrew? Is our first chick. Was born yesterday afternoon. It's falling asleep.
Don't put your foot in it. You're not supposed to stand in the food.
Very cute. The kids absolutely love it. We got 5 eggs, and we've got an incubator which we've got for a few weeks, and so one of them hatched. It took an awfully long time. From when it first pierced the shell, it took about almost 24 hours till it fully hatched. Long process, like a long labour. And they're all supposed to hatch around the same time, and none of the others were showing any signs of movement at all. So we thought that maybe they'd all, because they don't all make it, some of them they sort of just die along the way. But I took them all in my hand today, and I could feel them moving, except for one. So they're all along the way. They're just taking longer than the others to hatch. So hopefully by the next day or two, we should have hopefully 5 chicks. That's me doing my eating the chicken impression. Not even a mouthful at this age. I find this quite dry, this blend. For me, it's not sweet enough, and there isn't enough beefiness in the lower range of flavours. It's all about that Orientals, but very bright, very peppery, and very dry. I think this would mix well, possibly with, no, this isn't one of mine, this is a Tom Phillips pipe, an English carver who doesn't make pipes anymore. It's a nice pipe. It's got a slight faceting to it. I don't know if you can see that. There's a very slight faceting there. Cumberland stem or brindle. And it's a very, very nice pipe. I didn't smoke it for a long time because I didn't get a great smoke of it. I ended up re-drilling it and it smokes great now. I just needed to open it up a little bit. I think it must have had a 2.5 mil or a 3 mil drill. I opened it up to 4 mil and it completely changed it. Hey Weaver, how you doing? You're so nasty, Josh. I've still got it. It hasn't sold, the 4.8 one. I haven't tried it. I suppose I should really smoke it myself to see if it's the right thing to do. See if it smokes well. But I figured that if somebody, there's a lot of people out there who prefer a more open draw anyway. So if somebody bought it, they could give me feedback. Came out really well, this pipe. If nobody buys it, I may well end up smoking it. We'll see. Or it may go to GQ. I've got a whole batch of pipes going to GQ in the next couple of days. I've been threatening to do it for so long, but I'm actually doing it this time. Alright, I'm going to set this down because I'm not enjoying it. And I don't see the point of just smoking it for the sake of it. I'll put it this way, I'm not enjoying it, but I'd much rather smoke something that I will enjoy. Yeah, the vertical lines, they worked out nice. It worked out well, happy with it. And I think what I need to do with these rubies is I just need to work out a way for them to look, have a more sort of finished look about them. Right, let's see if this one opens a little bit more easily. There you go. Yes, he did say this is an aromatic. London fried chicken. Naughty boy. Mrs. Tree, give him a rap on his knuckles, please. So I see what you mean about a typical European, even before I take this sheet off. I've looked actually for a custom built pipe. I really would like to get a custom built pipe which I can convert to 9mm. I really just like the whole history of them, and they look like they'll be sort of champion smokers. They look really well built. You know, they're quite thick and big and bulky, a lot of them. Okay, so this one definitely smells aromatic. Yeah, I haven't seen anything decent on the UK eBay for sure. It's either they're fully professionally refurbished and they're charging a fortune for, or they're just not very nice ones. A little bit sticky. Sticky may be a bit too strong of a description, but it looks really good quality tobacco. It looks good. Lots of Cavendish in there, black Cavendish, brighter Virginias, possibly some Burleys, I would imagine. It's black Cavendish and Virginia with honey and spices. That really does sound like I would probably enjoy it. Oh right, so you said something about cardamom. What, the custom builds are expensive in the US? Coriander, right, okay. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Right, I mean, to be honest, Weaver, when I first saw custom builds for the first time, I thought, cool, they look really clunky. And I find that with a lot of brands, it takes me time to acclimatize to them, and then once my eye kind of gets the whole point of them, then I really like them. And the same happened with Nirup pipes. When I first came across Nirup pipes, first time ever, to me they looked quite comical. They looked quite almost caricature-like. The way they were shaped, quite bulbous and round and bubbly kind of shape to them. I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but that's what I got out of when I first came across Nirup pipes. But afterwards, I really started to appreciate. The more you look at something, you start to actually appreciate what they actually, the whole point of them. In other words, the style of the pipe. And the same happened for me with custom built. Custom built pipes, to me at the time, they just looked like lumps of wood with 2 holes drilled in it when I first came across them. But now, I start to get the whole point of them, and I really would like to have one, a nice example with a good thick shank that can be converted. I hope one day that I will get one. That's pretty good, one noggin. To get an old stock one for $50, I think that is worth it. But the old ones, some of them are not even in that great condition for $50. I'm not sure it's worth it. I mean, when I first started looking on eBay at pipes, say about 5 years ago, I think custom builds could be had for $5-10. Nowadays, you'd be hard pressed to find something for that kind of money. Yeah, definitely, Paul. Actually, my son is well on the way to uploading loads of pictures of my pipes onto my website, which will be going live soon, I hope. So on the website, it's going to be fairly basic. I'm not at this stage going to be making it merchandising. So there's just going to be 2 galleries, one of pipes which are available and one of pipes which are not available. somebody's interested, they just send me a message. There'll be a link to click, and you can send me a message about that pipe if you're interested. So he's at the moment there's about 30 or so pipes being uploaded to the gallery. So for sure, Paul, it would be very nice if you could do a slideshow of my pipes. What I might do is send you a link to the folder. It's on Dropbox at the moment. So there's about 30 odd pipes on there. So I might send you a link if you're okay with that, and you can download them and do that slideshow. That would be awesome. Yeah, and Jordan and Sea Smokes. There's quite a nice little group of pipe makers who started around the same time, and that would be nice to showcase us all. Yeah, so in terms of the website, I was able to get the domain name lcsbriars.com, so I'm very happy about that. Wasn't offering anything, Paul. Just kidding. It would be very nice. Lul, indeed. So I'm hoping that will go live very soon. Hey, Kamudge. How are you doing? All right, I think we're ready to load that. And it's very hard for me to resist this pipe these days. I smoked it on Friday or Thursday. I find it very hard to resist. It has had blend 131 in it quite a bit. Maybe, Andrew, maybe. It certainly smells like it's got potential, as Julia Roberts is wont to say. Anybody get that Pretty Woman reference? All right, here we go. This is one of my favorite LCS pipes that I own. That's one of my other ones. You either know it one login or you don't. I'm not going to spell it out. It's not the kind of quote that I want to get into. It's in the same scene where she says it corners like it's on rails. P2 is very nice. The reason why I had to take a message from my son before was because he was in the West End and in a very swish lounge, cigar lounge, and they had cigar menu, and he wanted to know what to smoke, and he knows that I know my cigars. So he sent me a PDF of the menu, which I scanned through very quickly, and he wanted something mild, so I told him Epicure number 2, but they only had from 2019 and 2020. So in the end I told him to go for an A. Chapman Royal Robusto. Hopefully he's enjoying it. That's a G, sorry, OGS, Orlick Golden Sliced. Rich Lewis pipes. Funny you should say that. I was reading an old copy of Pipe Collector, and after Bill Unger died, they did a pipe shaped like a custom built, and I think they called it Custom Bill in his honor. I see what you mean about this being a very European aromatic. You guys, I don't know how many of your American carvers you know of, but you have got some amazing pipe makers in America. Really, truly amazing. I've got a pipe on the way by one of them. There you go. Right on cue. Phil, unbelievable. You read my mind. I don't remember the name of the guy. I've actually... Yeah, but J. Allen is a little bit, and Butera, these guys, they're all a little bit high above my price range. You've got a Butera, Andrew? Oh, do send me some pictures of that, Andrew. I'd like to see that, or maybe feature it in a video. The perfection of his work is quite amazing. But I have to be honest that anybody with a name, the pricing just goes ridiculous. It just goes too far, in my opinion, sometimes. Jeff Graysock pipes, J. Allen. I find his work reminds me a lot of the Danish pipe makers like Chonowitz. Especially his apples, which he does a lot of, like apple Levats, that kind of thing. Very, very similar to Chonowitz, and some of his other ones like the Everson pipes, Lars Everson pipes, that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely, Weaver. A lot come and go, that's for sure. I was reading an article, what was it about? I think it was about one of the Chinese pipe shows, and there was an article about how viable it is for pipe makers to actually make a living from making pipes. And what happens is, oftentimes they'll go to a pipe show and see pipes going for thousands of dollars, and they'll think to themselves, I could do that. So they get into the pipe making trade, and then they realize that they can't sell their pipes because reputation is king when it comes to making pipes. And without a name, without a reputation, you're not going to be able to command those kind of prices. So some people, they'll start off, at $500, thinking that they'll be accepted as a high-end pipe maker. But it just doesn't work that way. And any of the guys that are now commanding high prices would have started off selling at low prices. And a lot of them, the ones who are now sort of the greats, they would have started as apprentices, spent many years as an apprentice working with some master carvers. But nowadays, with modern machinery and the ability to just watch so many videos of people making pipes, I think the route into making reasonable quality pipes is a lot shorter than it used to be. I remember when I first started shaping pipes. Hey, Maui. When I first started shaping pipes, before I started using a lathe, I couldn't understand. Take this pipe, for instance. I couldn't understand how the carvers were able to make pipes perfectly round and the shanks perfectly round. And decent pipe makers can do that without a lathe as well. But I just couldn't understand how people did this. And it took me a long time, even with the lathe, to really learn how to do that. And you, as they say, they call it muscle memory. It just takes time and practice and practice and practice. And see, for instance, this shape obviously can't be done on a lathe. A lathe can only be perfectly circular. And doing a shape like this so that it looks balanced, that takes just practice and time. And I would have never thought that I'd be able to do that. But with time, it comes. There's going to be disappointments on the way, for sure. You guys have seen me rescue pipes many times. Pipes that I've messed up. But I don't like giving up. There are a few that were completely wrecked and beyond salvage, which are in a bucket somewhere in the garage. But the rest I do try to save. I think there's 3 which are currently in my rotation. This is one which I had to patch up with a penny-sized hole in the side. Can you tell which side? And this was the other one, which has got a really wonderful sort of Danish style shape to it. And this one also had a penny-sized hole in the bottom, which I had to repair. And it smokes very well. Obviously can't sell it, but still. Do I have a video on the pipes? No, they're never made anywhere. They're not pipes even, one of them, I drilled I couldn't, when I drilled the draft hole, it ended up being about that height difference. I drilled and drilled and drilled the tobacco chamber, and it was just way past. It's in the early days of my pipe making, but still, it was beyond redemption, that one. Unless I was going to fill it up with an inch's worth of pipe mud. But I have taken on a few sort of refurbishment. A friend of mine gave me a pipe. I think I mentioned it in a video already. The tenon kept on coming out. Obviously, the glue had worked its way out. So I re-glued his tenon and just generally cleaned it up. I reamed it, polished it, and he'll get back a pipe in very nice condition. I think having spoken about that on a video, I got an email from somebody who's sending me 5 pipes to refurbish. There's not a lot of money in it, but I like the idea of bringing pipes back to their former glory. Not so much repairs, but just refurbishing them, cleaning them out, buffing them, cleaning, getting rid of the bite marks, and if that's what they want. For the ones that aren't lathed, so for this kind of thing, which I can't do on a lathe, that would be done with a sanding disc. I use a 5-inch. The belt sander I don't use, no, hardly ever. I use it more if I do my own stem. I'll use that to get the early shape done on a belt sander, and I will also use it for rings. When I put a ring on a stem, I'll use it because the rings will often be a little bit proud, so I'll use that to grind it down to the width of the stem. A pipe retort. What's that? Ah, you're smoking the tomahawk or pickaxe. Yeah, that's what I use mostly, is the 5-inch disc. And when I've done that, I'll use the 3-inch disc just to tighten things up a little bit. I find it helps. It gives me more. The 3-inch gives me more room to maneuver the pipe around it. The 5-inch is, it's a bit bigger. Have you got one of those long belt sanders, Phil? I should imagine you've probably rigged one up yourself. I mean, all the top guys use the belt sanders, the long ones, that they can, the ones with a very slack, that they can put their hands around it and help to shape the pipe and feel the pipe. But I don't have one of those. Got to bear in mind that I've only been at it for like a year and a half with very basic tools, and if you remember, if you watched from the beginning, my intention was to be able to make pipes with as minimal as possible investment initially, and overall I've managed to do that, I think. In terms of machinery, I have a lathe. I have a wood lathe, which I spent about £500 on, I think. An Axminster lathe. I have a small bandsaw, also by Axminster. I have a cheapy multi sort of disc and belt sander, but it's a really piece of junk, but I hardly ever use it. As I say, I only use it for grinding down rings and stuff like that. Yeah, a 1-inch belt sander, exactly that. What else do I have? I've got a sanding disc which is on the end of a drill still. I don't have a motor as yet that works. And that's it. I bought a drill press which I don't use. And that's basically it. I've got this workflow which I've gotten used to. So literally it's cut the block on the belt sander, over to the lathe, then over to the sander, and then finish by hand. And that's it. I am thinking of getting a large disc sander. Somebody on Instagram, I think it was Josh Dragon Briars, who was advising me to get a large disc sander, like a 10-inch disc sander, to shape blocks, to square off blocks before I start working on them. But I must be honest that the way excuse me, I've taught myself, I kind of rig it up, I load it up on the lathe by eyesight, and generally speaking I've got used to that, and generally speaking I manage to get them square. Every so often I'll drill one which is slightly off center, but generally speaking I don't have an issue with it. But still, you want to perfect things, and it's an easy way to do that is to start with a square block. So that's something that I probably will do at some point. Good night, Tim. Thanks very much. Andrew, this cheers, Maui. Thank you very much. Maui has the tomahawk pipe that I made recently. I've never used a pipe retort, no. I was actually reading an article about somebody who would how he would clean old pipes is he would take the stem off, and he would take the whole stummel and dunk it in alcohol, the whole thing, not using the salts or anything like that. He would literally put the whole thing in. We're not talking about high-end pipes, I would imagine. And he would leave it in there to soak through, then he would brush it through with a toothbrush or something like that, and then he would do the same with the stem, and then brush that through, and then he would finish it all off. So he would then sand the bowl, sand the stem, and then restain it and polish it. His tobacco's not bad, Andrew. Pretty good. I think I needed to leave it to dry a little bit longer. It's got a very classic aromatic flavour, but it's really not. A lot of the American aromatics, they're quite alcohol-y and quite metallic and quite artificial tasting, whereas this one is just quite a generic fruity sweet flavour, vanilla in there as well, but you also get a decent tobacco flavour and none of that artificial taste at all. Hey Wildcat, how you doing? CSC Smokes, all the best. Thanks for joining. Life is treating me well. Wildcat, thank you very much. Does anyone in my family smoke a pipe, Jeffrey? No. My grandfather, of blessed memory, he smoked cigars. Although my mum tells me that he did have a pipe at some point, but he was a cigar smoker that I can remember. I only ever remember him having smoked cigars. But there were plenty of people in my youth who smoked a pipe. I've mentioned this many times before. One of my teachers smoked a pipe in class, and it was quite a distraction, in fact. We also had a private tutor who came to give one of my brothers some support lessons, and he smoked a pipe. Yeah, in class. He would smoke a pipe in class, and he was a bit of an old style teacher where they could be quite cruel at times. Cruel, not cool. And he would use it to distract you and then punish you for not paying attention. Hey dude, reviews. And that teacher smoked Clan, even though I was probably about 8 years old at the time. I'm trying to remember the year group that he taught. I was probably about 8 or 9, if that, maybe even younger. But I still remember distinctly that he smoked Clan, because I remember the tartan colouring on the pouches that he had. I also remember that he smoked the corncob, which is a weird thing that had stayed in my memory, because I remember every so often he would bring out this orange stemmed pipe, and I always thought it was really cool, because he usually had a black stemmed, no, he usually had a falcon. He had a metal pipe. That was his regular pipe. But every so often he'd bring out this, I didn't know what it was, just that it was orange stemmed, and I thought the orange it really popped, and I thought it was fun. A lot of people sort of make fun of Clan. I don't think I've ever tried it, but it certainly smelled good. The aged burley flake is that's Ceylonese, isn't it? Just look at these rings here. This would just sandblast so well. What this really needs is a sandblast with a staining, which allows the straight grain to come through the sandblast. One day I'm going to have to get a blaster. One day. It's an interesting mix you got there, Phil. You're kind of crossing the genres there with Condor, and then Burley, and then Navy Flake. I think I've tried the aged burley flake. I've had a tin of it knocking about. I haven't tried it in a while. I'm not a big burley fan generally, but some burleys are okay. Like the London blend, the old McBaron London blend. I'm pretty sure they've got some kind of aromatic in there, because I can tolerate that. I smoke it every so often. It's an old tin though. It's a tin from the 70s. You like Lakelands as long as they don't taste of hotel soap. It's like saying you like chicken as long as it doesn't taste of chicken. I'm not a Lakeland fan, I'm afraid. I don't like it at all. The only one I can tolerate just a little bit of is Erinmore. Erinmore has enough of that almond taste in there to make it taste a little bit like marzipan. Hey Glenn. Anyway, this tobacco, not sure why they call it Oriental blend. Maybe just to make it sound exotic. I assume there is some Orientals in there, but it's made by Colhouse and Cobb. It's really quite pleasant. It's a very all-day kind of smoke. It's quite mildly aromatic. So it's not too goopy or heavy, and overly sweet. Lets you get the tobacco flavour through. It's really pretty good. The most expensive tool is a sandblaster, really. I would have thought the lathe was more expensive. I don't think I've ever tried pirate cake. I'm assuming that's a Latakia blend. This is actually really pretty good. I'm in two minds whether I prefer this to the vanilla cream from McBaron. It's different to the Blend 131, which I've been smoking a lot of because that's got a very distinct whiskey flavour. But I find that the McBaron vanilla cream can be a little bit bitey after a while, whereas this one is a little bit softer. But it's got enough of the aromatics in there to keep it interesting, and it's got enough of a tobacco flavour to keep it interesting, so it's pretty good. Hey Voodoo. $17.92. I don't think I've tried that. How are things in London now with COVID? Good actually at the moment, because you kind of go around thinking that it's kind of pretty much gone from London. But there are some cases creeping up. Not a huge amount, not a spike or anything like that. But there is concern that it could happen. And there's talk about now making it compulsory to wear a mask outdoors. And we kind of seem to always come a little bit late to the game. So a lot of people are wearing masks, even though it's not become compulsory. And society is opening up. We're almost fully open, almost. But you've got countries going back into lockdown. For instance, Israel, which initially handled it very, very well. They really jumped on it straight away. And they had very low number of deaths. They had 200 deaths in the initial spike. But there looks to me like they're going back into lockdown because they're seeing quite an increase of cases. Yeah, Northwoods is a great blend. You've heard me say that many times. Bob's chocolate, interesting. I really liked Bob's chocolate when I first discovered it. Smoked a lot of it and then went off it because I found it to be a little bit too. I don't know. It grated on me. I found it to be a little bit too rough. Might need to try it again. I think eventually the Lakelands started to come through because there is Lakeland in Bob's chocolate. I'm sure of it. I think there's Lakeland in there, and I think there's Latakia in there. It definitely lingers, that's for sure. I agree. And eventually, I think the Lakeland and the Latakia for me just didn't work that well together. It's too much of the same thing in a way. Lakelands is geranium. It's floral. Tonkin is more like vanilla. There you go, rose and geranium. Vanilla-esque, yeah. My liquor drink of choice. Well, I think I drink coffee more than anything else. I drink tea as well. And every so often I'll have a wee dram of whiskey, but not that often. But I do like a whiskey called Tamna Vullin. Tamna Vullin. Nice colour. It's a nice smooth whiskey. I'm not big into the PT type whiskies. I suppose a lot of Latakia lovers will enjoy the PT type ones. But in whiskey, I'm not so into it. This one I like as well. This is Glenkinchie. This box has actually got an interesting story. This is a 12-year-old single. You can look at the box, is a bit dog-eared. And you can see I purchased it in September 2011, 9 years ago. And here's why. Well, I didn't actually purchase it. This is a sealed bottle. I'm not sure. I think it's taken on a little bit more of a golden colour to it. And there's a card which came with it. Now, this was given to me back in 2011. I used to be a governor in charge of a school, and there was this family who was struggling to get their child into the school. And I had a little bit of a rebellious approach to a lot of schools have this elitist type of attitude to accepting children. They always want to get the best children into their school, whereas I had a completely different approach, and it so happened that I was in charge of the intake of the school, and I had a completely different approach, and my approach was blank canvas. I looked at everybody exactly the same, and I was a lot happier if I didn't know the people, so that I could, view them in an objective way. And generally, my approach was, as long as there wasn't a reason not to accept children to the school, then I would give them every single chance, rather than looking for the reasons that I should. In other words, looking for special reasons, only look for the best kind of families and that kind of thing. So I generally looked at things in a different way. Anyway, this family was struggling to get their child into the school, and I helped them along. So when the child was accepted into sort of kindergarten age, kid was 3 years old, they gave me this bottle of whiskey. And I decided I'm not going to drink the whiskey. It's a Jewish school, so I decided I'm going to wait till this child's bar mitzvah when he's 13, and I'm then going to give it back to the father as a gift for the occasion of the bar mitzvah. I thought it would be a really nice way to sort of complete the circle of this child's journey in school. So that's why it hasn't been opened, and it's still sitting in my cupboard. The guy that gave it to me, he's a big whiskey man. That guy's he's a collector. And I know he likes his whiskey, so I knew that it would really resonate with him. I think he's got something like 50 odd different whiskies at home. I've been tempted very many times to open this bottle, but I've come this far, it would be ridiculous for me to open it. Actually, I have to make sure that I haven't missed it, because they actually moved up north. He must be getting quite close, because if he was about 3, and that's 9 years, he must be very close to being bar mitzvah. I'm going to have to make sure that I haven't missed it. Well, this bowl is coming to its end. Well, I know it's a good whiskey because I've drunk that whiskey before. I've been through more than one bottle in the past, but I haven't bought whiskey for quite some time now. Spending my money on pipes and tobacco and Briar more than anything else. I'm doing my best to stock up on Briar whenever I can. At the moment I've probably got maybe 50 or 60 blocks. I'd really like to try and get it up to a couple of 100 blocks. Briar is expensive. Good Briar is expensive, for sure. At the moment, I'm spending around $20 to $25 a block, probably about $25. And that's at the lower end. You know, if you want to really get the higher end of things, you could spend. The risk of good briar is expensive, but just it's expensive generally. You know, it's as a piece of wood. You know, a few inches by a few inches, $25 is an absolute fortune. But obviously, it's a special wood. It's hard to harvest. It's harder to get, and a lot of work goes into it: curing it, drying it, cutting it right. Raw crafted also gets a decent amount of briar in. You can buy briar for less, for sure. You can buy briar. You can get some Greek briar, which is only good for rusticating, for $7 or $8 a block. But when you get to a stage where you want to have a reasonable chance of getting a decent pipe out of it, you've got to spend more. And you know, the higher enders, you know, the Jeff Gracicks of this world, and the Nana Eversons and these kind of people, they're spending probably $80 on a block of $80 to $100 on a block to get the best sort of the best straight grains. Yeah, I mean, I think I generally buy Mimo most of the time, and I've been very lucky. Either I've been very lucky, or you get what you pay for, to some extent. But as Phil says, at the end of the day, you don't know what's inside the block. If you watch somebody like Mimo, there's videos out there of him cutting blocks. Cutting the root, the burl. When he cuts through the middle of it, he could really get an idea of how, if it's going to be wormy or not. But you can never know for sure. You can have cut it right through the middle, and it looks beautiful, and 2 inches to the right or to the left, it could be wormy. You just don't know. Yeah, absolutely. You could have sand pits. You can have dried out bits. You can have little crevices. You can have eggs in there, worms in there, bugs, stuff like that. Do the Italian pipe makers get a better price? I don't think it's about the nationality. I think it's about how much briar they buy. You know, people like me buying 10, 20 blocks at a time, or even less sometimes, whereas they're buying it by the sack. You know, they're buying thousands of blocks at a time, so they for sure will get a much better price. Very good. If anybody's got a copy of his book that they want to sell, I'd be interested. I've been trying to find it, I can't get it anywhere. It is Fred Hanna, the guy that wrote the book, or am I mixing him up with somebody else? The guy who collects straight grains. One thing I've realised is that there's no real. I don't think anybody really knows the truth about Briar. I've heard so many well-respected, experienced pipe makers and pipe collectors say different things about Briar. You know, some people saying that as long as it's a year old, 18 months old, it's never going to improve a huge amount. And I read actually, I think earlier today, that Briar is at its best between 3 and 5 years, and beyond 10 or 12 years, it's actually starting to dry out too much, and you don't want to use that. So, and some people say, oh, our Briar is 30 years old, it's the best. So you'll hear lots of different opinions about Briar. And I'm smoking Briar that I've made from blocks which I've received within, say, the last 6 months to a year, and they smoke fantastic. Some of them don't. It's really, I think it's pot luck a lot of the time. Yeah, I can't see, that's a good idea, Phil, but I can't see them doing that, because that means they would have a huge amount of loss. Either that or the cost of Briar would go up because they'll be throwing away so much. Like this, we have to take some of that loss by having Briar that's not so good. If they could only sell Briar which tested okay, the amount of waste they would have would be enormous. Like this, it's in there amongst all the other blocks, and it's split between all the carvers around the world, and you might, whatever percentage you end up getting of blocks which are no good, you know, so be it. If they had a scientific way of ensuring that every block was good, prices would go up astronomically. No, I can't see them doing it either. As you say, time consuming, and it's not in their interest. If anything, if it's not that expensive, it might be worthwhile for pipe makers to have that, so they're not wasting time turning and carving a block and then discovering right at the end, like I've seen many of your pictures, Phil, which is very frustrating and gut-wrenching, when you've already done a lot of the work and then discover that you've got a critical fault in the pipe. X-rays, wow. I didn't know you could X-ray wood. Although I guess that's what CAT scans do a lot of the time. Right, this bowl is virtually done. Alright, I think I'm going to leave that there. Andrew, not bad at all. Yeah, I'm also going to run. Not bad at all, Andrew. Thank you very, very much. Again, thank you very much for the 2 tins and for the tools. We'll certainly try and make use out of those tools. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. The Sun Bear for me is a lot better than than the Janus. All right, everybody, we're going to call it a day, a morning, a night, an evening. Thanks very much for joining. Thank you, North Country. Thank you, Dude. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Voodoo. Thank you, Glenn. And who else have we got here? Jeffrey, if you're still there. One Noggin. Glenn. Campawita. Thanks, everybody. That went really fast. Can't believe the time is already 2:10. Thanks very much, everybody. I will catch you on the next one.